writes under the name T.A Moore. So T.A Moore, Tammy.
I was just making sure my dress wasn't tucked into my knickers there on the way out. Obviously, what I did need to show you. I was introduced. My name's T.A Moore, but I write under T.A Moore. My first novel is called The Even, and it's an urban fairy tale set outside of reality, where all the gods and goblins that don't have a place in today's world have gone to take sanctuary until the end of time. But this is a bit of a digression from that. I should have brought books so that we could sell them, but in an absolute frenzy of disorganisation, I didn't. Usually I just shout really loud. But I didn't bring any books, but you can find them on Amazon, in the Wallabies, or if you go to my website, which is nevertobetold.com. So this is a gay erotic horror. I'm a little bit embarrassed because everybody else's stuff is also nice and uplifting, and this is not. Also, I left the first 2 pages of this in my mum's house, and then I set it on fire. If anything explodes tonight, it's probably my fault. This is called Different Breed, and it was published in Bloodfruit, which is an anthology by Queer Fiction. Peter's cock tasted like the liquid soap from the dispenser in the bathroom as it slid between Saul's lips. On his hands and knees under the table, safely hidden, Saul pulled a face as the taste ran over his tongue and down the back of his throat. He supposed he should be grateful that Peter was hygienic, but to be honest, he'd rather taste sweat and musk when he was giving a blowjob than detergent. And the lavender flavour of old lady breath mints was kind of off-putting. It was too late to back out now, though, not without having to deal with one of Peter's screaming tantrums. So Saul folded his lips over his teeth and took the rest of the freshly scrubbed dick into his mouth. Oh, fuck, Peter hissed as he felt Saul's mouth around him. Without even looking, Saul knew what the look on his face would be. Patrician features slack with lust, a flag of bright colour on each cheek, and his frost blue eyes half closed. That's it, don't stop. Saul tuned out the litany of encouragement as he worked his tongue over the thickening cock in his mouth. The width of his shoulders pushed Peter's knees apart as he shifted closer and ran his hands up Peter's thighs and around to grip his ass. The black vinyl was slick and hot under his fingers as he kneaded the firm curve of flesh in time with the rise and fall of his head. Limited by the tabletop over his head, Saul sucked hard each time he raised his head slightly, Peter groaning, and then his teeth scraped lightly along the skin as he lowered his head again. After 3 months with Peter, the hand on the back of his neck, hard fingers scrubbing him like a dog and pushing his head down, was predictable. In fact, Saul gagged perfunctorily as Peter's cock hit the back of his throat. Everything about Peter was becoming rather predictable. He would even go so far as to say Peter was becoming a bit of a bore. Nose pressed against Peter's wax-smooth balls, the teeth of his zipper chafing his cheeks, Saul brought the other man to climax. Semen ran down the back of his throat and into his stomach as bucking hips slammed the back of his head against the bottom of the table. Fuck. If he got chewing gum in his hair, he was going to be pissed. Compose myself. He let the lip cock slide out of his mouth. The side of it shiny with spit as it plucked against Peter's thigh made Saul feel briefly sentimental. He crawled out from under the table. Ice cream cubes rattled against glass as he grabbed his drink and took a swig of the harsh vodka. Swilling the liquid around his mouth, he resisted the urge to spit and swallowed instead. Shit, Saul, Peter drawled as he tucked himself back into his pants and zipped up. You could suck the chrome off a tailpipe. Romantic. Vodka sloshed against the side of the glass as Saul toasted Peter. He stiffened when Peter slid along the bench towards him. Pale blue eyes were fevered under the dip of thin veiled lids. as Peter slid his hand over Saul's stomach and then down to cup his groin. "I want you, Saul," he whispered as he rubbed his cheek across Saul's shoulder, his fingers kneading hard at the soft bulk of flesh at Saul's crotch. "I want you so fucking bad, all of you." Saul shook his head, shoulder-length curls spilling over his brow, and tried to push Peter away, but the man clung to him. "It's all right." Fingers tightened around their handful of flesh, and Peter grinned, his lips a gaudy slash of red. I know what you are." He pressed his mouth against Saul's, tasting his own seed and vodka on the soft of his pout. "I know why you'd never let me do you, but I'm not afraid. I want to be like you. I want to be with you, forever." "Oh yes," Saul mused as he leaned back in the book, his dark eyes distant. It was sad. His lover had definitely started to pall. It was almost sad. He had loved Peter so much in the beginning. He had been abject. It wasn't his beauty that had first attracted Saul, although Peter was beautiful, pale but thin and androgynously perfect with his bleached white hair and sharp, spare features. He held court in sin eaters like the crowned ice prince of the Philly Goth scene. But it was his cruelty that infatuated. The flicker of pure pleasure in his eyes as he whipped his lovers and friends weeping from his side with razor-sharp, viciously honed words. His alcohol-fueled tantrums that left his intimates battered and wan, but afterwards, bathed in the aftermath of his remorse, still staunchly loyal. He had been like a cold flame to Saul's moth. In the back of the club, a shot sitting untouched by his elbow, Saul watched intently as Peter savaged his latest lover. The words were lost under the throbbing bass of Rasmus, but the meaning of the impatient, latently violent gestures was unmistakable. Mascara-black tears ran down the boy's round cheeks as he folded in on himself in mortification under Peter's mockery. When a plea for support went unanswered, his erstwhile friends averting their gaze for fear of drawing Peter's temper down, he turned and fled. Saul followed the redhead's flight briefly before returning his attention to Peter. Peter was reveling, his face white and his eyes bright in his lover's rout. "Nasty git," Ginny commented as she took a drag on her closed cigarette. Billy got off on that. Attention strained from Peter for a moment, Saul frowned through a haze at his lanky horse-featured companion. Her eyes, big and honey brown, blinked back at him through a frizz of food-coloured blue bangs, as the hitch of a pierced eyebrow challenged him to disagree. He just smiled, a secretive twitch of his lips, and returned to a study of Peter. She grunted and stubbed her cigarette out on the table. "You're a masochistic little bastard, Solly," she grumbled as she slid out from behind